Alright guys, here we are back again. Today we are finally going to talk about the IPV3 by Pioneer for You. This is going to be kind of a long one. I'll try to edit it down as short as I can, cut out as much of my rambling and be on point as much as I can. But there's a fair bit to say. So, what is it? This is a dual 18650 regulated mod. Already I'm cutting. Dual 18650. They are in series, which means that they're stacked. It's like when you put batteries into any device where they go end to end. Just means it's doubling the potential voltage, not necessarily doubling your potential draw or the bank, how much is there. However, you do get that benefit because it is capable of putting out so much. It is drawing a little bit less from each battery, so you do get good battery life from this. I have notes this time to try and make me be a little bit more on point. We'll see how well that works. The device uses the Yeehee 330 chip. It's like the V3S or something. It's specifically programmed for the IPV version 3, and it is upgradable. So right now, as we speak, there's an upgrade to take it to 165 watts, and I have put that on the device, and it's a pretty easy upgrade. So with that, let's be short on the intro and let's get right to the close-up and take a closer look at it. Okay, here we are, folks. I got a little bit tired of using my webcam and computer. That combo is not going well, so we have switched over to just using my iPhone. Back to the jerry rig, hanging it over things. So hopefully the quality's okay and the sound remains alright. I am actually still using the same mic I use for normal recording. I'll just splice the video and audio feed together in post. Makes me sound professional when I say post. All right, so here we go. IPV3, that's actually what we're here to talk about and look at. So let's start at the top. So we've got 510. It's just a normal 510 and it works great. I do not actually know if that's adjustable. You can start to turn it, but it's really, really restrictive. Like it feels kind of crunchy and grindy, and I can't tell if we're supposed to. So before we go back up to talk about it at the end there, I'm going to look up and find out the answer to that question for you, so that I can tell you if it is supposed to be adjustable or not. I have never needed to adjust it, so it hasn't been a concern. Everything I've put on it has worked great. And then we got this little weird thing. So this is a touch sensor. So back in the IPv2, they introduced the touch sensor where in the settings you could turn it on or off, so that all you had to do was just kind of rest your finger on it and it would fire the device. So think of, turning on any newish iPhone that has that touch sensor. It works the same way, just instead of unlocking the iPhone, it fires your atomizer. However, here, no matter what you do, even if you turn it on and the setting is there in the menu, this will never turn on. It's not wired to anything. So, kind of weird. It makes you really wonder why they put it there if it does not do anything. You're going to notice that as a theme with this device is a lot of little weird. Like, why did they do that? Why did they bother? So we're going to continue on this journey of weird. So on this side, we got nothing. Front, if you will, maybe. Nothing going on. Just flat surface. Great though if you wanted to throw. I kind of like they didn't do a big logo because then you can throw a decal or something on there. Make it your own. This side, the other side, that is nothing. The opposite of the control screen. You got this plexi. I was going to say display. It's not a display. It's just tinted plexi with a design and logo in it. It actually looks kind of cool. It keeps it from being too boring, i.e. like that side. Okay, the bottom we have some venting for your dual 18650s and a USB port. That USB port is not for charging. It is in fact only for upgrading. So this device, as of not long after it came out, there's an upgrade that will take it from 150 watts to 165 watts and reduce the sort of the low end of the ohm rating, where you can go a little bit lower now. I think it's 0.08. All right, so that's where we sit on those sides. Quickly jumping back to here, actually, this is the IPv3 version 3. So they've done 3 versions of this IPv. Why? Because the first one came with a charge port sitting right there. And that charge port wasn't USB, it was a 9-volt charge port. Just those little round plugs that you never once you move or they get separated, you never know what they actually belong to. One of those, a little round charge port right there. However, it didn't come with a charge cable, so a lot of people online started looking around, trying to figure out what would work, trying to find the specs of how it would charge, and it brought up a lot of questions. We'll talk about those questions when we get into the battery compartment. So all those questions came out, and all of a sudden, version 2 started showing up, where they still had the hole drilled, but they threw a little plug in it. I think the charge port was actually still underneath it. And then the IPV3 version 3 came out, where they finally learned, maybe let's just not make the hole in the first place. So I have never taken apart the inside to see if there's still a charge port in there. I don't care. So that gets us to the back panel. The back panel, yes, still uses screws. So another carryover from the IPV2, which is odd because they heard the feedback and they did some things about it. So the IPV2, everything I read and every video I watched, people were complaining about these screws. One, the fact that they were just screws there at all, and two is the fact that they used really not great screws and they would strip. So they've changed them from those small Phillips heads to an Allen, right? And they give you, the standard blue screwdriver and an Allen key, which is actually really convenient. And they're much better screws. I have no problem getting them in and out, and they still give you a replacement set. However, every one of those complaints that said how bad the screws were also complained that they were just screws and that you had to unscrew it to get into it. And now that's extra important because you can't charge it on the device. So every time you go to charge, you have to undo those screws. They need to make these magnets. So we'll take that off, and there we are. Dual 18650. They are in series. So series essentially means we are front to back. So they are in series. So they connect from positive through the negative, through the positive, through the negative. And this is exactly why the onboard charging didn't work. You need a very specific charger in order to make this type of charging work. Because obviously you're connected on this end, and this battery is not connected to the positive side except for through the battery. And this one is not connected to the negative side except through the battery. So this is a difficult way to charge, and you need some very specific types of equipment. So there was a lot of questions as to whether or not this device came with that equipment. I'm going to guess by their removal of that charge port, it does not. All you do is charge them on your 18650 charger. So pop them in, and then we're going to take a look at the menu. So the negative side goes onto those springs. There is right here, I don't know if I can get us to focus well enough, little positives and negatives in case you're uncertain, but the spring should be your telltale sign anyway that that's where your negative goes. So we put it in, we get the Pioneer for You logo, and it's not on. You can't adjust, you can't fire. So 5 clicks, just like almost everything else. And we get the Pioneer for You logo, but we still can't fire and we still can't adjust until it does this little thing. Not a big deal, but a little bit of waiting. It'd be nice that at least if you hit the fire button, it would skip past it. It doesn't. Okay, so here we are. When you first turn it on, it automatically jumps to the low end, which is 7 watts, and it goes all the way up to 150 watts out of the box. There is an update out there now that takes it up to 165 watts and lowers the lowest you could build down to 0.08, I believe. So I have that in there, and now it's 165 watt. So, woohoo! I'm never likely going to go over 70, so it doesn't really matter. But I thought in case there's any other improvements, it was worth throwing in. All right, so we're in the device. I want to be higher than 7 watts, and I do want to be higher than 7 watts. I push the up button. Wait a minute, I jump right to 10. So there is a menu system, or a memory system. So memory 2 is 30, memory 3 is 50, memory 4 is 100, memory 5 is 150. Back down to 10. So let's just say I wanted to be somewhere around the 30 watt mark, but I wanted to be like 35. Push the down button. Now I'm in adjustment mode, and I can go up by 0.1 watt increments, or I can hold it down for some acceleration. The only downside is it's really easy to overshoot where you want to go. I think half the time it would probably be quicker just to one click wherever you wanted to go. So there we are, 35 watts, and I push the up or the fire button to lock it in. Actually, that's not going to lock it in because I don't have an atomizer on there. So let's throw one on. Let's throw on the Atlantis. Okay. There we are, 35 watts. Okay, let's fire it in. When I hit the memory now, you can see memory 2 is 35 watts. All the other memory settings have stayed the same. Memory 2 is 35 watts, so that's great. It does not take long to get used to that. We're now, okay, we're ready to go. We're firing. If I wanted to be a little bit higher, maybe I want 35.5, I push up. Oh, shoot, right, memory. So I have to push down, and then now I can go back up. So down is essentially your adjustment mode, and then you can adjust. Up is your memory mode, and you can scroll through your memories. So down will always put you into adjustment mode, and that does not take long to get. So that was pretty easy. So now another weird. Let's go back to the world of weird. We're in here. We've got our 35.5. Memory 2 is still 35, so we didn't lock it in. So down. So as you can see, we adjusted, but we didn't adjust the memory. So now we're going to adjust the memory up to 35.5 because that was, say, better. Fire it. Memory is now 35.5. So we're at 35 watts. My battery's getting low. Let's go charge it. Pop out the batteries. Put it in your charger. Come back to it the next morning or 5 seconds later. Clearly, it doesn't matter. Come on. That's weird. Okay, let's try that again. You did see me take the batteries out, right? All right, batteries are out. I can't fire. There we go. We're booting back up. And again, you can't skip this either. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I get that 15 seconds isn't a long time in the grand scheme of things, but it's an annoying 15 seconds when you just pop a battery in and want to vape it. Okay, so we're back. Back at 7 watts because it was off and we put the batteries back in. Memory 1. Memory 2 is 30. Yep. Every time you charge, your memory setting goes back to normal. It is probably actually the biggest detractor of this device, is the fact that it has this memory setting and you can't really use it. I would love to sit there and say memory 2 is my Atlantis or my sub-tank or whatever, and I can screw that on. I go to memory 2 and it's great all the time. And then I could have another one set for like my Mutation X when if I want to throw big clouds, that's what I put it to. But it doesn't work that way because every single time it resets it when you charge it. So basically it just works out like a shortcut menu, really, more than anything else. I want to be up around 100. I can just hit the memory up button and then I can adjust in that range without having to hold it down to get all the way down to, let's just go, if I want to be like in the 30s, holding it all the way down to get down there would just take too long. Really, it's just a shortcut menu, right? So that's all it is. Yeah, so that's about it, guys. Let's. I'm gonna pop this back on. Actually, show you one more slightly weird thing. It's not a big deal. It's just kind of weird. So here I am. I put on the device. Everything lines up. And some of you with a keen eye might notice already, but I go to put a screw in and I can't. This panel is actually upside down, and it's only upside down because of where the logo is. It fits just fine. It fits just like it did before, but you can't screw it on. So it has to go on the bottom, which I get. It makes sense. It's just weird. Why? Odd choices. Just odd choices. All right, guys. Let's jump back out, and we'll talk about this just a little bit more and wrap this up. So yeah, it's a little funky. It's a little weird. But it actually works out okay. So let's just have a quick vape. And I'm actually going to start out with what I dislike and kind of cover those first. So let's vape. So right now I am, like I said, Tugboat dual coil. It's a 0.46. I'm actually at 39.3. So I'm not actually even using a lot. But this juice is a 6 milligram. I don't even usually vape that high. So usually I'm a 3, and sometimes I'll mix with a 0. So the nicotine and the throat hits me kind of hard, so I've got to take it down a little bit. I think if this was a lower milligram, I would actually prefer it up around 50, maybe not quite that high, maybe a little bit higher, 50, 55. But for today, 39.3 is just great. It's also really Sorry, I found the bottle. Hasn't been vaped yet. This is a brand new build. Man, tastes good though. It's putting out great vapor, and I will just up the wattage as we go along. So a little harsh right now though. That could be the nicotine, could be the Japanese cotton. That's not what we're talking about. Cons. So the cons to the IPV. One, I don't know if I mentioned in the up close. I don't think I did. The fire button. They're great buttons. They work fantastic. They've got good tactile feel. They're kind of clicky. So they work. I don't know if you can hear that. Fire button's the exact same. I didn't change anything. Nope. So that works great. But it's so small. And not that it's hard to find. It's very easy to find. But I find sometimes when I'm vaping, it's very easy to come off the button and have it stop firing while you're taking a drag. So I don't dig that. A bigger button would be much better. It doesn't have to be a massive horn style switch, but a bigger button. So that's definitely a con. The build quality, and I don't mean to call it build quality, but it is build quality. It's the weird things that they do where they clearly didn't think about it. And this I did forget to show in the close-up, and I know that. And I don't really want to do this, but we're going to do it quick. The 510 isn't centered. So you take a 22 millimeter device, which should fit perfect, but on this side, it overlaps with the bevel, and on this side, it doesn't. So if the 510 was centered, you'd have a much better look. And I'm not a big streamline look guy. I'm fine with mismatch mods, but you know, it's just one of those things that they should have noticed and they should have done something about it. Same with the buttons and the screen. They're not centered. When the back plate is on, if you take off the back plate, everything is centered with this body, but then the back plate adds, what, 3 mil onto the edge? And it's not dramatic, but it's enough that everything comes off center. Why? Why couldn't they have gotten that right? What other things did they get wrong? Things like the fire switch, the touch sensor not being there. Why is it there? It doesn't do anything. You can't make it do anything. Why did they leave it in? Things like that. And I have my notes, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to be better with my rambling. The screws in the back panel. Like, why do they do screws? They heard the feedback and they fixed it, but they didn't put in magnets, which everybody was crying for because these screws are kind of annoying. The fact that the first two versions had a charge port for a device that can't charge batteries. The seam here as well, the fact it's not a big seam, it's not super noticeable, but they had the room, as you saw in the close-up, to inset that back panel in and then not worry about, if you do leak, it going into that seam and into the inside of the mod. And then, you know, in general, like it's not huge, but they didn't do a lot to try and make it comfortable. These beveled edges definitely help. If they were square, it'd be really uncomfortable. And with my hand size, it perfectly kind of fits into the crook right there and then right into my finger joints. So I don't find it uncomfortable, but by no means is this a comfortable mod. Those are my cons, really, and most of it comes down into my confidence in its manufacturing. So the positives, and what I do like about it, is it's consistent. I don't have many issues with this. It works the same pretty much all the time. I don't have oscilloscopes. I can't tell you if at 39.3 if it's hitting perfectly 39.3. But I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it on the Vapor Shark and just check the vaping consistency. So both of them are capable of 39.3, which is part of the reason why I chose this wattage. Okay, so 39.3, hopefully that's focused. 39.3, hopefully that's focused. Oh, I feel this video is going to be longer than I wanted. I had hopes with my notes I'd be quicker. It seems so short when I wrote it all down. Well, that's a noticeably better experience. Nowhere near as harsh. Seems not cooler. It's smoother. It's definitely smoother. And maybe that's just because that We're slowly breaking it in. Let's jump it back over to the IPV. IPV seems a little bit warmer. Just a hair. It is reading it differently. So it is reading at 0.45. Vapor Shark read it at 0.43. We're seeing a whole 0.07, was it? Voltage difference. So this is reading it a little higher ohm and putting out a little bit more volts. So maybe that's why it seems a little bit warmer. It's not bad. It's good. So with my two devices, it's pretty consistent. I really enjoy it. It's bigger. It's not my travel mod. It is my dripping mod, almost exclusively. I very rarely put a tank on this. However, the battery life is great. The two 18650s last a good long time, and I'll get a whole day of dripping, which is awesome. The flexibility, and then that's just generally variable voltage and variable wattage. What I like about it is that ability to fine tune this to hit 4.2, no matter what my build is, and I can perfectly nail a mech mod experience, or I can slowly bring it up. Like right now, it's smoothing out, so let's bring it up to 45. Whoa. Man, that scroll kicks in so fast. So 45. Hopefully you can read that. Better. So much better. So, I'll slowly bring this up as that wick slowly breaks in. And now we're at 4.54 volts. So throw it on the mech mod, I couldn't have got the experience I just did. So that is really where this shines, is that ability. I could build down to 0.08 ohms and take it up as high as I need to, where I'm not limited. Hence why I have the 150 watt. I will likely never go over 70, and I'll rarely go to 70. I like right around that 0.3 to 0.5 is where I like building, and I don't need to go over really 60 watts. So I don't need the full 150 or now upgraded 165, but I like that depending on my build, I can customize it right to where I like it for that exact build. It is more power than I need, so the one downside to the Vapor Shark, even though this is my go-to, is the fact that I'm limited to that 40 watts, which means at 0.5, I have to be over 0.5, really, for the most part, for what I like to vape. And then, really, I don't know if it's a pro, but overall, I like this device. It does what it's supposed to do. If you eliminated all those cons, it still wouldn't wow me. It's good. It's flavorful. Tastes great. Mod is consistent. Yeah, all around, it's super usable, and it's not that expensive. Right now, actually, I bought this at a local vape shop, Vapor Jedi, for 150 bucks. I know online, and they do sell it online as well, Vapor Jedi. I do know you can get it for 109 on CanVape, canvape.com. They're out of Toronto, I think, or Kitchener, or somewhere in Ontario, around Toronto. And they also sell the 165 watt IPV3. Now, as far as I can tell, it is just pre-upgraded, and that one's 149. So I couldn't find any differences. Do your research if you're interested in this. Find out if there is a difference between those two. I can't see it in the specs. They look identical. So you can save 40 bucks, get this thing for $110, and upgrade it yourself. And end up with the same mod and save 40 bucks. So, look into it. I don't know if they're discontinuing this one and it's only going to come at 165 now. Maybe that's why it's cheaper. But either way, canvape.com or Vapor Jedi, I think it's worth it. All right, guys. My notes didn't help me. I'm still rambling. Have a good one, and we'll see you again. Whew. The 6 milligram is making me lightheaded. I'm such a lightweight.